Hey, welcome to your day off. My name is Corey, and this is my here podcast here. And I'm sitting with my friend from Beauty Launchpad, Miss Gabby Bach. What's up, Gab?
Hi, how are you doing, Corey?
I'm pretty hyped up today because last night, we're recording this, whenever you're listening to this, we've recorded it earlier, but last night in the real life, not in the recording life, or the release life, we actually announced our winner for, Shadow Pressy Poe. And like, honestly, Gabby, it's my favorite thing we get to do every year. We do a month long contest for usually the month of February. And people enter to Shadow Presley Poe for the weekend. And last night we had a really good one. It's always super emotional. And I saw that you popped in there. And by the way, you made Presley laugh very hard.
Yeah, it was very fun. Because so also getting back to podcast life or like real time life, we recorded like 3 episodes of the podcast. And then you announced the winner for the Shadow Presley Poe contest. So I spent like about half of my day staring at that gorgeous cutout of Presley Poe behind you. And so I mentioned that because you brought that up on the call, which was fun. And then, yeah, you announced your winner, and it's a boy, which is fun. I
It's
saw
a
you
boy.
included that in the Instagram caption for the winner announcement, which is great. Um, and yeah, it was really emotional. Like I was just so surprised, like watching all of you just like streaming into tears, like reading the stories and hearing about everyone. Like it was so cool to get to experience that and watch that and just see that unfold. And I'm psyched to get to meet everyone now and get to head to the event, especially as it's getting closer. It's going to be so much fun. And I'm so grateful to you for inviting me and letting me hang out for the weekend. It's going to be a good
Yeah.
time.
It's a really good time. It's a really good weekend. It's definitely a weekend where we get to celebrate hairdressers for hairdressing. It was really important when we started this thing to make it about the attendees. Not make it so brand focused, not make it so like educator focused, but really make it attendee focused. Now that doesn't mean the brands aren't going to be there. That doesn't mean the educators aren't going to be there. But the focus is just a little bit different. I think that's the advantage to Katie and I and Presley for that matter. How we've been hairdressers behind the chair. So we kind of get what it is to be a hairdresser. We kind of get what it is to attend these shows, and we just kind of wanted to fulfill this for the attendees. Yeah, so it's cool. Yeah, man, we did cry a little bit last night, and to be honest, I don't know if I was crying because of Alvin's story, which was so great, or if it was because Presley started crying, and like here's this hard girl online all the time, but really she's a big softie, and she doesn't always show her softie side on online, but she did last night, and that always gets me emotional as well. But no, it's pretty exciting. We're super stoked for it. A big shout out to Bounce Curl because they actually sponsored the sponsorship this year. So a huge shout out to Bounce Curl for sponsoring the shadow program and being able to bring Alvin in and being able to hopefully enrich his career moving forward. At least that's the goal, right?
I'm excited to get to see the whole just like experience of the shadowing and getting, because I've heard about the program and reached out to some of the past winners, but I'm excited to get to see like close up like what that process entails and getting to like watch it all unfold because he seems super psyched about winning, and it should be just, yeah, a really really fun experience.
Yeah, we can't wait. I can't wait for you to see it. I can't wait for you to experience it. But yeah, so actually our guests today, I actually have a question for them. We'll get
Okay.
into that. We'll get into that first. I mean, that's why we have a podcast, so we can ask questions.
Yes.
But our guest today, she's is she she's being featured in the March April of Beauty Launchpad.
Yes, she is. So March, April is our eco chic issue. So a large part of it is sustainability and talking about how can we make cleaner, greener choices in our salons and with the products we use, and talking about, initiatives that brands are taking on to be more sustainable. How can you do that in your salon? And then the other half of it is sort of the bridal stylist focused issues. So we talk a lot about extensions and then talk about the bridal community. And so when I was thinking of people to reach out to, um, immediately the first person that came to mind is the very lovely Dana Fountain, who is our guest today. A little bit about her: she's the founder of Pin Me Up Chicago, which is the Midwest's largest on location beauty industry, or whoa, let me say that again. The Midwest's largest on location beauty agency. And she's a trailblazer in the bridal beauty industry. I believe she calls herself a SheEO, which I think is such a great term. I absolutely love that. But she, yeah, owns multiple salons, a beauty co-working space, and the South Loop wedding and events venue, Row 24. And she also has a new workbook out that's called Your Beauty Blueprint that we'll dive into. So there's going to be a lot of really, really great stuff to discuss in this episode. So let's bring our guest in without any further ado, Miss Dana Fountain.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me today. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for chatting with us.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for making time for us. Dana, my question, when did we first meet?
Oh, man. Geez. I
Was
mean,
it?
you've been to Row 24, right?
No, 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 no,
You
no. So
haven't?
you invited me. You were having like an after party. I want to say it was ABS or it was something going on in Chicago, and you invited me. And to be honest, I'm like, I'm not leaving Rosemont to go downtown.
Yeah,
I like
yeah. We
it just.
partnered with a couple, we partnered with Elevate Hair a lot to do
Oh
their,
yeah,
when they did after parties. I was always hanging with them at like the harebrained, teach-ins and stuff like that. So, I mean, I go way back to all the hair shows. So somewhere along the way, we got introduced and we were fast friends. So
fast friends. Even faster than that, Dana. Even
fast
faster
friends.
than that.
Yeah.
So you're in Chicago now, Dana. But where are you from? Is that where you grew up?
Yep. Born and raised here on the southwest side of Chicago, right by the Midway Airport area. I've lived on all sides of the city and a couple suburbs, but then I always make my way back to the city. So I'm now in the South Loop, and I'm a Chicago girl through and through.
True and true. How'd you find the industry? How'd you get in the hair business?
Yeah, so right out of high school, I wanted to go to college and knew that my parents really didn't have it to just pay my way through college. I knew I needed some type of solution, job. So I thought a trade school would be easy and obtainable to learn a skill and then, kind of get my way through college and into adulthood. Uh, I moved out when I was 18, super young, and just always knew I could figure it out. I was never the type to be kind of told what to do. So as soon as my parents were, um, rightfully so, enforcing curfews and things like that, I was like, I gotta go.
Imagine that.
So I found the beauty industry and just beauty school in general just seemed like the right fit to be independent, still be able to work, get my license, do things, and be super social. So I was always interested in beauty. I had two hairdressers growing up on my block. Uh, but just really was more of that drive to be independent.
Yeah.
Like give me a skill. Give me something I can do to make some money so I can get out of here.
Did you make it back to college?
I did not. I did not. I have a few self-proclaimed MBAs, but none official.
Well, there's two MBAs you get in life. Like you either like go to college and you get it, or you just experience life and you get it. You know, so either way is groovy. You
Yeah.
know, Gab.
Yeah. So you mentioned you've always sort of had the passion for the industry, but what sort of led you to then pivot towards bridal? Do you want to talk about how you got involved in that side of the industry?
Sure, yeah. So I started off at Tricosi as a young stylist. I was assisting, always interested in educating. So I was always right up underneath the educators and the creative director and education director. And in a salon, big salon setting like that, I noticed that special occasion hair was just something we were like supposed to know how to do. There wasn't any formal training. We did, formal haircut training, formal color training, but there was no special occasion training. We kind of had to figure that out on our own. So it did come natural to me. I was always good at styling, good at blow drying, good at curling, pinning, all the things. But then I realized that a lot of my coworkers weren't good at it and there was no dedicated space to learn it. So I was kind of the go-to girl at the salon for brides, or they were all bridal parties would come in and be sent to all different chairs, and then they'd all come back to the front desk, and three people hated their hair, two people liked it, and then I'd fix everyone. Uh, so it naturally was drawn to me because I guess I was good at it, but I really saw a need for the education piece of it. So when I went through educator training, I educated for a very short time in hair cutting, and I just kept getting called to styling and special occasion styling. So when I left Tricosi, that was just kind of the path that chose me, I guess.
That's all. That's awesome. So Did you start educating people? I mean, there was that hole there? Did you like in a formal kind of way?
Yeah. So, I guess fast forward a little bit. I worked in a salon downtown that was in the Pedway. So if you know anything about Chicago, there's these like underground tunnels that connect the big, large office buildings so people don't have to walk outside during the cold months. And I was in the Pedway between the Leo Burnett building and the Renaissance Hotel. And we were open Monday through Friday because it
Hold
was,
on, hold on, hold on. As a non-Chicago, I have some questions here.
yeah,
Like there's tunnels like under the city, and there's
yes,
retail spaces, or
correct.
Yeah.
So we have subways and L trains. So the trains kind of go up and down. And in the loop, there is the train stations are underneath, but there's also the whole pedway system. So it connects the large office buildings from the Sears Tower to Millennium Park to like over by the river. You could come out underneath the river, like under Lower Wacker. So in the Pedway, it's busy during the week with all the commuters, but on the weekends, it's a ghost town. So I was in my early 20s and working at a salon in the Pedway. So I was really busy during the week, and it gave me my weekends to start doing weddings. So I was doing just friends' weddings, friends' sisters' weddings, things like that. And then I brought it back to my salon owner and I was like, hey, like I'm working 7 days a week. I'm working full time in the salon. I'm bartending, serving, and doing weddings. Like, why don't we at least do the trials in the salon and then I can go on location and then we can market it to the hotel next door. And he was like, no, Donna, I would never do that. Weddings are terrible. And I was like, all right, well, I'll keep it moving then. So I met another like-minded hairdresser at the time. She did a little bit of makeup. We teamed up and just kind of sat down and put my first business model on paper. It was called Your Day Glam at the time, and got the bridal business platform out of my head and onto paper with a website and a couple pictures. And we would sit at our kitchen table and make hair pieces for brides. Like, we didn't know. We just wanted to be creative and, kind of saw a niche. So we started there. And then I saw a need for I used my Tricosi friends that were good at updos at first as my first teammates, but it was hard for them to be out at the salon on Saturdays. So I saw a need for, younger artists, but then they would need to be taught. So I taught in a couple different capacities for our special occasion hair. So first one was one of the blow dry bars I opened called Betty's Blow Dry and Beauty Bar. It was in Elmhurst at the time. I wrote a
name, by the
curriculum for
way.
that. What'd you say?
Love the name.
Yeah, Betty's.
Betty's. Oh, Betty's. We're going over to old Betty's. She
Yep.
had to dry my hair.
But what we did was we took a barbershop, an old school barbershop that had shampoo bowls in the stations. And so we just kept the vintage-esque feel with some cans of gold spray paint and made it kind of girly. But I teamed up with Ergo, and Sugar Hair Care is the product line I love and swear by, and I'm still a part of today. And the Ergo boys helped me do some, blow dry education, and then we put it all together, and it was pretty easy to take. There was a Paul Mitchell school in the mall as well. So we took some students out of Paul Mitchell, taught them how to blow dry and curl, and we had some blow dry bar staff. So that was my first formal curriculum I put together. And then
Okay, hold on. Slow down. So what was this novel, like a blow dry bar, or had you kind of seen the model around the country and then you emulated it, or did you kind of like create it from like you just had this? There needs to be a space for blow dries.
yeah, so we created it from scratch. It was actually a barbershop that someone brought me into that was a dying barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
It had two older barbers that were right on the brink of retirement. The man that owned the shop had passed away, and there was no one held the lease for the shop. And it was in Yorktown Mall. So it was in a big shopping mall.
Uh-huh.
And the two barbers that were left were in their 80s,
Oi,
and they were paying booth rent to the mall.
oi.
Mall management was like, I don't know what to do with this $150 you just handed me.
Right.
And so one of my clients, I had done their wedding, and friend, he was a mortgage broker, but he also went to that shop since he was like a little kid. So he had brought it to me and said, hey, any interest in owning this barber shop? And I was like, I mean, not really. What do you need? Like, what could I do for you? And he's like, well, I just feel like you know a lot of people and maybe you could get some barbers in here and we could like keep it alive for these guys. And so we did. They weren't super keen on new younger talent. And uh we kept it alive enough for them to retire. Once they retired, I had a girlfriend that I worked at Tricosi with that got a small inheritance from her grandma, and she wanted to buy a salon or open a salon. And I said, I have this perfect little salon for you, and it'll cost you almost nothing.
Almost nothing.
Almost nothing.
Perfect price.
Perfect price.
So okay, but I guess my question is like, had you seen the model before?
I mean, your dry bars were big, or were
Got it.
coming out at the time. This was in like 2009, 2010. So they existed. It was probably before their peak, but the blow dry bar model was existing. She had also done makeup for Pin Me Up or Your Day Glam at the time, and she did eyelashes. So we felt like in the mall with her clientele she already had a little bit of, that the blow dry model was easy.
Mm.
So
I
we
love.
definitely
Go
created
ahead.
it. I was gonna say we definitely created it. We didn't, buy into a franchise or anything like that.
Yeah. You talked about, I mean, now you're sort of the name is Pin Me Up Chicago. Do you want to talk about sort of the changing of that name? Because I think branding is something that's super important and sort of knowing like what sticks. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first partner I had was a girl that just owned a little boutique salon, and I rented a chair out of her salon, and then we started doing weddings together. So Your Day Glam was the first agency. It wasn't really her jam. She did a couple weddings. She really didn't bring any business into the business. It was more my jam. So then as I kind of grew out of that partnership and grew out of that space, I wound up purchasing my first office condominium where I still am today at 111 North Wabash. And in that space, I paired up with another makeup artist that was just more into the idea of building an agency and really, doing the bridal shows and doing some photo shoots and just doing it more focused. Um, and we were partners all the way until 2019 when she went in another direction. So her and I started Pin Me Up together. She was a makeup artist, I was a hairdresser. She always had the easier job than I had because we always find that makeup artists know how to freelance and hairdressers have to be taught how to freelance.
Yeah, right.
So I've always had the harder job. I feel like wrangling and teaching and wrangling hairdressers. And makeup artists have always just been plug and play. So I always have great makeup artists out of the wazoo, and hairdressers always need a little bit more hand holding. So over the
By the
years,
way, I want to get into that. Why do you think that is?
well, for the most part, I would say as far as special occasion training goes, there's not a lot available, right? I know we did hit a big influx before COVID with, you're up to, videos with Instagram, right? Instagram gave us a space to have a lot of those artists hit the mainstream. So it was lack of education. The other piece was a lot of hairdressers are told and trained that Saturdays is our busiest day in the salon. And I've never agreed with that because it depends where you work, it depends where you live, it depends what city you're in or what your circumstances are, your clientele or what your clientele is. So it was the hairdressers, especially my age hairdressers, that were trained that Saturdays are the busiest day. So it had to make sense for them to leave the salon and go to a wedding. So it was also the pool I was pulling from was much smaller than, makeup artists that freelance all the time.
Do you think it's just from the jump, like how it's how the business models are set up?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think some of it comes from beauty school education. Uh,
Well, let's look at it the other way. So how are makeup artists being trained so freelance is a thing or the thing, because there's not really like, I mean, we had makeup artists in and out of our salons, but frankly, they never really lasted very long, or anything. I mean, the only other place, and I don't know a lot about it, so I am not intentionally being offensive on any level. However, like you could work at like some of the department stores or some of the department counters and stuff.
Yep.
That was kind of the only place that I saw like makeup artists, like, a setup that was that was equivalent to looking like a brick and mortar business.
Yeah. So me being in the loop, I was downtown. We had all the department store makeup artists, which were a big majority of my team. They also got really nice kits, right? Because they're working at the time it was MAC and like all the big Bobby Browns and Chanel and all the big brands. They have these beautiful kits of expensive makeup. So when they're not at the counter, they are doing private clients, right? And then I also was around the news stations and, the convention center and things like that. So where my salon was located in Millennium Park, we often got a call for a guest going to a wedding or a guest going to an event or a speaker, being interviewed on Channel 7 or whatever. So I guess I just saw a lot of need for makeup in my immediate environment.
Uh-huh.
And they would just come plug into the salon. So a lot of them had like a base retail job, but then as they worked their way up the ranks in retail, then they had the flexibility to be off on Saturdays or be off on the busy retail days and take their private clients. So a lot of them naturally found their way into bridal.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. Gab?
And even from brand to brand, like what happened, some makeup artists, if they don't want to be on with a brand full time, they freelance for brands so that brands also bring them in for like their launches or their events and things like that. So I really think the freelancing education came from them also being able to bounce from brand to brand as a freelance agent.
Yeah, it's super fascinating. I love learning about those different dynamics and components of the industry. So you have Pin Me Up Chicago. Then you also have Pure Beauty, which I've been to that space twice. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. And thank you so much for having me there for some of those events that you've had. I love like the idea of this sort of like there being a collaborative space for people like hosting events or just doing different things. Do you want to talk a little bit about the need that you saw for that space and sort of how you then branched out and created that space?
Yeah, of course. So in my 111 North Wabash salon, we just had one makeup mirror and we were getting very busy. And I knew Pin Me Up needed more space for bridal previews and things like that. But I also didn't want it to have its own overhead because it is like a seasonal freelance business and it's seasonal. So Sam, my partner, her and I would work weddings together. She worked with me with Pin Me Up and we love working together. And when I bought my partner out in 2019, she would always say, like, let me know if you ever want someone to buy back in. And I was like, well, I don't really need you in Pin Me Up, but I do see a need for artists like yourself. She worked for Pin Me Up, but she also worked for herself. She also had private clients. She was a freelance makeup artist. She also was in upper management with some of the brands. So she had really great management and retail experience, good people skills, good communication skills, all of the things. So we put our brains together and created Pure Beauty basically for ourselves. I needed a place for my bridal team to work out of. She needed a place that wasn't in people's homes to see her private clients and to do her own bridal previews. And then we also, have this network of artists that are now our friends, and some plug into agencies and some don't. Some don't have to anymore. But I think especially for makeup artists, it's not fun to go to somebody's house in somebody's, terrible lit bathroom with their cat or dog or something you might be allergic to, just all the things. And so COVID really made us see that a clean, safe, accessible, hygienic workspace was needed for special occasion free and freelance hair and makeup artists.
So, okay, explain to me the model. So you were saying that you didn't want to go to a place because it's so seasonal. So, how did you get around it being a seasonal kind of space, and make it like a 12-month space?
Yeah. So what we did was it's a membership-based model. So we have a studio space that's shared space, and then we have 4 treatment rooms. One of the rooms is nice and sunny. We use as our bridal room. So that's a private suite that people can rent by the day, by the day, by the half day, by the full day. And then we had 3 rooms, 3 treatment rooms. So out of all of the freelance makeup art and hair artists we know, of course, there's some estheticians, lash artists, permanent makeup artists, other beauty niches that existed in our, existing group of friends. So we knew that the treatment rooms were going to be occupied by someone that could cover basically our overhead. So that's how we were able to justify the cost of the space and then be able to open up the studio space to this shared studio model. So my team, along with a couple other bridal teams, we have a team membership. So I pay a little bit more of a membership fee, and then I can use it for multiple trials. Then we have different tiers of membership. So our team membership is our largest tier, and then it goes by how often you need the space. So if we have an unlimited tier, we have a tier with kit storage, and then we have a once a week or 4 times a month tier. So if it's just an artist that needs like 1 studio day a week to do their previews, so we kind of fit into all of the freelance needs for a studio home.
I love that. So, if like with your estheticians and in your treatment rooms, are you renting those out by the day, or do you have like one esthetician that's in, one treatment room full time?
Yeah. So, for the most part, they're full-time rentals or they're room shares. So we have the 3 rooms at our Kinsey location, and then not last October, the October before, we also opened a 6-suite space at 900 North Franklin that was geared more towards medical aesthetics and nurse injectors and things like that. So we have a similar model at our Franklin location that caters to medical aesthetic practitioners, but the same kind of plug and play situation. So the rooms, to answer your question, the rooms can be rented full-time, or you can also plug into our by day, by half day, by the hour type of model.
Dude, I love this. I mean, to me, it sounds almost like the suite model, but you're stretching out of outside of like hairstylist, or what we would normally what we would find in like a quote unquote normal hair salon. I love that. I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
kind of in between like your regular, either commission or booth rental, and then your suite. Like your suites are your islands amongst yourselves. Like none of us can work as freelancers. None of us can work alone without giving each other gigs and jobs and networking. So we knew we wanted a space to have the collaborative shared workspace, but then also be able to support each other with bouncing things off each other.
I love that. I regret not visiting now, Dana. I gotta next time I'm in Chicago. I gotta head down and take a look at one of these
Yeah,
spaces. It's
please,
pretty cool.
please.
It's so cute. Yeah, I love Pin Me Up. I love Pure Beauty. I've been in there. I love like also I've noticed you have like little vending machines in there
Yeah.
as well that are super cute. I just like it is such an adorable little space.
Whoa, 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 whoa! What's the vending machines?
So I just, saw it online when we were building it out, but I purchased a vending machine, and in the vending machine, I put little bottles of champagne for, brides or clients that are doing their trial runs, hairspray, bobby pins, eyelashes, the things that freelancers need when they're doing their bridal previews that they often run out of. So it's just a, little kitschy vending machine that supplies the artists and clients what they need.
Oh my gosh, I love
Wine
that.
bars, coffee, and champagne. That's all we need to work.
That's it,
Yeah.
man.
That's
That's it. You say yeah, in a protein bar. We're good, man. We're
it.
good.
Yeah, I got some nuts, some kind bars, some canned coffee, and then champagne.
Love that.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, it's easy peasy.
Then you also have row 24. Yes. I'm like diving into all the different little spaces that you have. Do you want to talk about sort of like what that space is and sort of like how you then got into opening that?
Yeah. So, my husband and I met, and we were in similar industry spaces. My husband used to run a live music venue in Wicker Park, and I was in the bridal business. So when we were, young and dating, and we both have entrepreneurial spirits and talking about the things we could do, we kept coming to this space where we need a wedding venue. It's literally like what he did at the music venue, managing different types of people every night, managing staff, managing security, all the things. And then I knew weddings and I knew brides. And I knew that in Chicago, there were this uprise of venue type businesses, but the cool venues were kind of small. And there was still a lot of like larger weddings happening at hotels or the bigger venues like the Shed Aquarium and things like that. So I doing on location bridal hair for over 20 years. I've pretty much been to every venue that exists. And I could hear from the brides firsthand what they loved and what they didn't love about venues. So we started looking for a venue space and we found a building on Michigan Avenue that was pretty vacant and dilapidated. So we did a full gut rehab and it was a medium-sized full span building that has a mezzanine level. So it was a cool loft space, but it was big enough to host weddings. Like the sweet spot for weddings is about 150 people. So we went into the business thinking about.
I wish she told my daughter that before she got married.
It's kind of the sweet spot. So we went into the venue business gunning for weddings, but then I also knew my hair people were at McCormick Place. So our space is just a block from McCormick Place, which is the convention center. So situating our business there, we also knew that we'd get some corporate business. We knew the wedding space. My husband has tons of relationships in the Chicago industry scene. So he knew all types of events would happen through him. So we were pretty confident going into this business that we could fill an event schedule.
Which is the hardest thing about an event space, isn't it?
Yeah.
Booking people.
It is. Yeah.
You sound a lot less like a bridal stylist and much more like a real estate mogul or something.
That's what it has turned into.
Yeah.
I once read this book that was written by oh my gosh, I'm brain farting on his name, but basically the owner of McDonald's, and he said he asked the group of people like, what business am I in? And everyone's like, oh, you're in the hamburger business and stuff. And he goes false. I'm in the real estate business. He goes, I own every corner of every major intersection in the country, and that was such an eye opener to me. And
yeah,
kind
what I
of
also love about the McDonald's story is how he has,
Ray Kroc.
Yeah.
Ray Koch.
He has teenagers running his business because it's systemized. So what I also love
Well, let's get into this.
is the systems and processes behind these platforms. And McDonald's is a prime example of that.
I'm curious. Well, I mean, I think Henry Ford brought like systems to the workspace, right? I mean, like once we became factory workers. I mean, I could go on about why it's terrible too. However, when it comes to that, and then McDonald's just kind of took the Henry Ford model and made burgers out of it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Pretty much dummy proofed it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much. Well, that's the idea of systems, right?
Right.
And what systems do you have in place or because actually, you know what? Let's have a conversation about this, Dana, because certainly when you're working with a bunch of freelance artists and you're working with a bunch of free spirits, free thinkers, free whatever, and I would argue that the freelance and the free thinkers aren't there by accident, so then what can you systemize so you can also work within the own boundaries that they're not setting?
Yeah. So it's definitely the most important part is mutual goal alignment. So the very first thing I do is every wedding season, I have a repartnering call with every single one of my artists. So I can see exactly where you are this year. And it changes, right? Like I'm a plug and play platform. So I have artists that have worked for me for 14 years. And I have artists that, worked for me for a long time ago and then they come back, or they had kids and then they come back, or whatever. So I keep a very open, honest situation. This is how we do things. You can plug in if you'd like. It's not really up for interpretation or negotiation. This is, you can plug in as you like. So I have a repartnering call with each and every artist so that we can make sure our goals are aligned. And I'm booking the people that are committed and depending on Pin Me Up, and then Pin Me Up is depending on them. So it's really just that individual relationship with each artist that keeps us aligned and in agreement.
And then are you paying them, or are they paid as a freelance? How does that
Yeah,
work?
we pay them. Yep. So all of our brides and clients book through us, and then we manage the booking, the contracts, the scheduling, the trial. We manage it all, and they just show up and do their art, and then they take some pictures, upload them to our system, and then it calculates their pay. So it's also plug and play for them because they are freelancers and often doing other things. It's really easy for them to plug and play into Pin Me Up as well.
And okay, it's so many questions now. So are they also free to like freelance elsewhere as well?
Absolutely. Yep. My platform is straight freelance. So there's no way to control where other people work, especially if you can't employ them full time. So absolutely. I
And
have
are
no
you,
non-competes or anything like that in place.
so come January, are you issuing them a 1099 or a W-2?
Correct. Yep. All 1099.
So everybody is freelance in that sense.
Correct. And every event and gig is just kind of they're asked if they want it, yes or no. There's no requirements, how many you have to take or anything like that. I just try to align the bride with the best possible artist that's available that day.
And what's that criteria?
So it
Not
depends.
criteria, that's the wrong way to put it, but how do you match up a freelance person with a bride? Like what are you asking the bride, or what's the intake with the bride, so you know how to set them up?
Yeah, so we send the bride a bridal information sheet to just get a feel for their actual wedding. So they have, where's their venue? What are their inspirations? Are they going for anything specific? And then we ask for their social handles so we could get a feel for their lifestyle. And then I try to align an artist that I feel like can fit their lifestyle. We are a very inclusive space, and so we give our clients that space to say, we have a large diverse team. So like whatever you could possibly need, we probably have. So just be as honest as possible of as what you need so that we can align you with someone that like fits your vibe.
I dig that, dude. That's so cool. So you're kind of doing the vetting on both ends then a little bit.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And even with my artists, like I'll take anybody because there's going to be a need for this type of artist in this type of situation. So, and the more, what I will say for bridal specifically, the more professional you are, the more reliable you are, the more communicative you are, like that makes you more bookable. But once in a while, I get a request that's very specific, and then I can usually fill that request.
That's pretty awesome. So I have so many questions, Dan. I'm sorry. I'm
Okay, I
sorry,
love it.
man. So if like I'm like working on your team and you like book somebody, and then I guess you probably already answered it, but let's go through it again. So like if you hire blah, 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 if you're my bride, and I was sent to you by the great Dana, then and I loved you, then if my sister's having a wedding, I don't have to go through the program. I could go directly to the independent.
You could. The only challenge with that is with an agency like Pin Me Up, we guarantee you're going to be happy. And if someone's sick or there's a problem, we guarantee that we'll have someone there on your wedding day.
Got it.
Only challenge with booking freelancers independently is if there's a challenge, there's not usually a backup.
Yeah. That's like Eventbrite.
Yeah.
Never mind. Whole nother story. Whole nother
So
story there.
yeah. And we do, we are really transparent with we want them to love their look. So they don't choose their artist, I do, but we also guarantee their happiness. So they kind
How
of
do you do that though?
we build a rapport and trust with them.
With the bride?
Yes.
I see so many problems in this.
So if we
You
allow
always hear the
the
story, right?
artist,
You always hear the story about like the nightmare brides.
yeah, I can count on my hand how many times we've had crazy nightmare brides.
Mm.
For the most part, it is the happiest day of a person's life with their best friends. And we do cater to the masses, right? So, like, I do not market myself as luxury or any of that. Like, these Insta famous hair and makeup artists, they can have that. I have no desire to deal with that type of clientele. And being in a big city, always being downtown, we've always had the volume. And there's so many regular, beautiful people that get married that don't know a ton about hair and makeup that just want to look nice on their wedding day.
Fair.
So that is our ideal clientele. Our ideal bride is that easy peasy second grade school teacher or, advertising professional or whatever that just, is not your glam, your glamazon.
I feel you.
So
I feel you. Gab?
plenty of space for that. And there's plenty of artists that cater to that because we love beauty, right? Like if I'm a makeup artist, of course I love makeup. So there's plenty of artists that cater to that. I don't have to.
I love that.
Yeah, I think kind of similar but unrelated note to detour us a little bit. You're talking about the Nightmare Bride. You're talking about sort of some of these like doing bridal hair, makeup. All of it is such a very like high intensity situation, and can sometimes be very, very stressful. And looking at you and just like all the different businesses and platforms that you run that we've kind of talked through, like it's a lot. And I was actually at your event space, and this is sort of where it kind of really hit me. Hearing like some of the questions that other brides were asking, a lot of it is like, how do I take care of me? And then also have this really thriving business that is really stressful and really demanding because you're dealing with a very high stress situation that's maybe a little bit different than just like doing a client's hair behind the chair, like on the daily, because it's someone who wants to look very beautiful. They're being photographed, whatever. How do you sort of take care? Like, what are your top tips for taking care of you?
Yeah, so I think that's a two-part question. If it's me specifically, I have my own set of ways I take care of me. But if for my artists, is they just know that I have their back, right? So like it is a high stress situation. If for some reason a bride's not happy with their hair or they freak out or are rude or something like that, like we always have our artists back. So if it's like a personality conflict or they're just not a great pair, we just pair them with someone else. Or, it's kind of like no love lost. If an artist doesn't like make a bride happy, I'm not firing that artist. I'm not going to say I'm never working with you again since you didn't make that bride happy. Like that's crazy. People are people. And so we always back up our artists, first of all. And so that I feel like gives them, that's why they like working for an agency, because it's not that where they have like responsibility over the whole process, the contract, all the communication. Our normal communication with a bride is anywhere between 15 to 50 emails per bride.
Go.
So if a hairdresser and a makeover wants to spend half of their time communicating, then they should open up their own agency. But most of them do not. And so I feel like they can just do what they're good at and we can do what we're good at. And that gives everyone that kind of like safe space to like take control of the high stress situation.
All right. How do you take care of you?
I travel. My husband and I just got back from Cabo a couple days ago. We are people that always have the next trip on the calendar, and we have a 4-year-old, and so she goes right along with us on some of our trips. We have 3 older kids that are young adults that 1 or 2 always tag along. So we just love traveling with our kids.
I was just reading this thing about how why travel is important, certainly the way that you're doing it. And if you're being literal, like you're always a trip down, it's like they say it's really nice to have something on the book because there's always something to look forward to.
Correct. Yep.
So
anytime there's a rough day or a business challenge or something, I could always just glance through my calendar and be like, oh, we'll be there soon.
I'll be there soon. I'm in the middle of scheduling a big travel. I'm heading to Gabby's bored of this conversation, but I'm heading to Cambodia in July. Yeah, I'm going to be there for 18 days. I'm doing this project called Hair Aid, which I recommend all hairstylists at least look into it. And what we're doing is while we're there, we'll be training like current and former sex workers how to cut hair, with the idea that their future has options. I don't like to say you change your life or whatever because I don't think that's up to us. But certainly you give them the ability to, or you give them the skill to have options in their future. And I'm really looking forward to it. I've never done anything like this. I'm also traveling alone, which I've never done either. So I mean, I've been going to Southeast Asia. Can't be that bad, right? But have you been there? Have you been to Asia?
We were in Thailand and Hong Kong. I've been to the Cosmoprof in Hong Kong. And then we went to Bali
Ooh.
last year, year before.
Actually, you know what? Hair Aid has a they have a program in or a project in Bali. So
Mhm.
they in Bali, I don't think I can do that one. I have to ask. But they actually they do the project in there's a woman's prison system there. Um
Wow.
do it in. So they train prisoners essentially how
Yeah.
to compare just again once they get out to that they just have different options for their future. But like I'm obviously extending it, because it's 6 days of the actual project, but I'm extending it. What is that, almost 10 days that I'm extending, both to both in front of and behind the project. I was told to definitely extend a couple of days because it's pretty heavy, so you want a couple of days to kind of debrief before you head home.
Yeah, and to do that kind of work somewhere like that, you're gonna identify with those people. So you're gonna want to like dive into their culture a little bit and, eat their food and have time to sit down and chat and things like that. So definitely recommend.
Yeah, I'm very much we're looking forward to it. How do you talked about like rough days and stuff, like what other than the travel and stuff, do you have any mantras or anything that you kind of remember? Just remember, Dana, it's not like this for like what kind of what's that internal conversation?
Yeah, you know what? I just had a conversation with an artist that was having a really rough time. And I told her, one thing I tell, especially beautypreneurs, is sometimes we are our business, but it's still a business. So you have to be able to separate yourself from business. And, I'm an advocate of, starting your LLCs and doing all of the business things that so you can separate your humanness from your business. And it's hard in our industry because so much of our brand is ourselves, our talent, our touch, our words, all the things. But at the end of the day, it is a business. For me, it is a business. And so when I'm having a hard day, all I have to do is tell myself, you know, tomorrow it's still going to be here. So tomorrow's another day. But this artist was having a hard time. She was renting one of my suites and she fell behind. And it's just off season, right? So when she was busy with weddings, booked and busy with weddings, it was perfect for her. She was taking her private clients in her suite. She was doing weddings with Pin Me Up and she had a good money flow. Well, then she like disappeared for a couple months and she fell into this like depression. She was dealing with some stuff at home. And I finally got a hold of her and I said, we need to talk in person. So we talked in person and I told her, I said, Pin Me Up is an entity. Pure Beauty is an entity. Dana is a person. So just because you may owe Pure Beauty money, that doesn't mean you can't talk to me as a person. So I had to like separate the things and say, you're having a hard time. It's okay. Guess what? Wedding season's 2 months away. We'll figure it out. Or if the suite isn't working for you, we'll find a different solution. And so I felt bad that she felt like I'm such a business person that she couldn't talk to me, but it was really more of like her own like deep depression and she was embarrassed. And I said that's not necessary.
Is it possible? Would it be possible to up her rent in those months? Kind of like a for 4 months your rent's going to be double because you're making more money, and then on the months that it's slower, like either owe nothing or like a fraction.
Totally. Totally. So what she wound up doing was she wound up moving to our to like kind of catch up because what's really hurting her is her home life. She's taking care of two sick people at home, which is so taxing. So she wound up switching to just a regular membership in the main area for her regular clients, and she does do some alopecia clients. So that's why she needed a private space. So when she needs a private room, she rents the bridal room just for those clients, and it's way more cost effective for her. And then if she builds herself back up or she gets back into a space where she wants her own suite again, then we'll figure that out too. So, I just had to sit her down and say, just tell her like, don't dig yourself a hole. We have options.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Really good advice.
you got to separate yourself from the business sometimes.
Yeah. And I think the community and the empathy is a large part of it too, is just having that like human, and I think that's so important. But I also think the community is a large part of it too. And that's a big thing that I've just loved really seeing unfold in the hair industry as I've sort of spent more and more time in the industry and met more people is just all the people who are building spaces and building community. Because sort of the thing that we're talking about is there's a lot of hairstylists like agency, like it is freelance, and you're kind of just like, it may seem like you're sort of marching to the beat of your own drum, doing your own thing. And so I think like that was something that was really interesting for me, is that it may be more difficult for bridal stylists to find that community, to find other people, which is why I really loved that bridal event that I got to go to. At Pure Beauty that Beyond the Ponytail was sort of putting together, that you know had opened your space up for, which is really gracious and wonderful to sort of have an opportunity for bridal stylists to be able to connect and build that
Yeah,
community.
and freelance artists are not usually in a salon environment. So when you're in a salon, right, you have your coworkers, your clients, like it is a community in itself. But when you're a freelancer, sometimes you're just in and out making people feel beautiful and you don't have that community.
Yeah.
The community is really important too. I mean, even in those situations, like even if it's just like, oh, she was terrible or she was great, or did you see that, not necessarily to be catty or to be gross or anything, but just to have the community, just to kind of like to be able to bounce off of and share your thoughts, or just to process with.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Dana, tell me about your beauty blueprint.
Yeah. So I have been told for years I need to write a book, because I don't think that my journey through the beauty business is standard. I bounced around a lot. I wound up, like you said earlier, getting into real estate really early in my career and becoming a multiple platform business owners by I guess by design, because the type of environment I needed to work out of didn't exist. So when I went off on my own, when I left my last commission situation, I went off on my own. I even bounced around for a little bit that still didn't fit, a situation that still didn't fit for me. So I wound up purchasing my first office condominium at 111 North Wabash. It was a tiny little studio with 2 shampoo bowls, and it was kind of before the salon suite business. So I imagine if I was a little bit later or if I was a little bit younger, maybe I would wind up in a salon suite. And to me, that's like an island amongst myself. What I was able to do at 111 North Wabash is take office space and turn them into salons for the people that I was already working with and wanting to work with. And because we're so centralized downtown Chicago, like there's no shortage of people that want to work downtown Chicago, right? But it was the model of my salon that attracted the people that I have, because everyone wants that home base, or a lot of people want that home base, but still the community and still the support to do other things. So what I found, fast forward now, I have 7 salon spaces, and I have found that every single artist needs something different. And I'm in and out. I'm in and out in all my places. I'm downtown one day a week. I'm on this computer from home most days a week. So I would see my artists in passing, and they would always ask me the same questions. They would say, Dana, how do you do it all? Or I want to get like you, or, how do I buy my own salon or open my own salon? And I could never give them good advice, because everyone's circumstances is different. Everyone's living expenses are different. Everyone's responsibilities are different. Everyone's goals are different. And so what I found in starting to write my own story was a couple things that I did that I think maybe people get stuck at, is I just kept moving till I found what was comfortable for me and what was feeding me as an artist, as a business, to make more money, to do all the things. I just kept moving and figuring it out, and I'm still figuring it out. And so I feel like as I sat down to write my story, I was having a hard time telling my story without pointing out the key parts of and the business skills that I had to either learn or outsource to continue to elevate. So I wound up separating the 2 projects. Your Beauty Blueprint workbook is out now. It's on Amazon or anywhere you see me. And that is just your beauty blueprint. So that's getting your goals, your ideas, what you need for your business out of your head and on paper and in a workbook form. And I literally just wrote this workbook from how my brain works. So I hope it works for the beauty industry, but I know it works for how my brain works. And then once I was able to separate this project, then I could dive back into writing my own story. I'm working with a ghostwriter and writing my story, but it was the lessons, the very basic business lessons, like break-even points, break-even analysis, revenue goal setting. Most of the book is actually just a workbook that you can bookkeep in by the week. It's, for our industry, weekly bookkeeping is something I swear by so that you always know where you are in reference to your revenue goals. And so just really helping artists reverse engineer that, because people are asking me advice on this end, right? On the success end. But I need you to understand what I did to get here, because it's nothing special. All I did every single day was put one foot in front of the other. If it's something I didn't know, I asked. If it's a skill that I didn't have, I took the time to sit down and learn it. And then I was able to keep scaling. So there's no shortcut. It's money in, money out. And, revenue in should directly correlate to your goals. How many of us make money and we spend our entire income on our goals? None of us. So it was really just getting that point across that your income should directly correlate to your goals. But if I don't know your goals, well, my advice is nothing. It's not relevant.
Right. I love that. I love the book. And so the book's available on Amazon?
Yes. So the book's available on Amazon. The workbook is out now, and that is Your Beauty Blueprint. And yeah, it's just a little workbook to get your beauty business out of your head and on paper, so you can start to identify what resources you need, what like-minded professionals you might be looking for, what type of salon environment might serve you.
I, that's so good and so valuable. I recommend anybody getting on Amazon, certainly if you're looking. I mean, listen, if you're looking to, if you're in a commission salon now and you're looking to get into a suite or something, I would recommend going through the workbook just to even understand, how business works, or more importantly, how business doesn't work. Because I think in the industry too, we have such an illusion about, what business isn't, that it's hard to even grasp what business is, and we also, I think we've also been, told that it's kind of gross, right? Like the business side of it is kind of gross, but, unfortunately it's just the way that it has to work. To me, it's like the whatever that we're hearing a lot about, like hustle culture. I'm like, listen, like, you might not like hustle culture, but those that are hustling are going to step on you on their way up.
Yep.
So you can be against hustle culture all you want, but hustle culture is just going to move you aside and keep moving.
Agreed.
That's just what it does.
And
And
that's
that's
why your individual goals are so important. Like, someone will watch someone on social media, right? Per se,
Mhm.
that may have, may not have to work to eat, may not have to work to live. I say that all the time. Like, you look at someone's beautiful Instagram page, you have no idea what their bottom line is. So we all are at different places, and it's not comparing apples to apples, especially when we're online.
No, but you know what though? I mean, I don't even mind that. Because I'll put it to you this way. Like, when I'm in the salon and I have a client who's like really upbeat and stuff, that's the highlights. They just had the highlights. But then I have the clients that are total Eeyores, and like, I'm not really interested in their social media. You know what I mean? Like I'm okay with the highlight reels because it's just something to strive to. And I don't take it personal. Like, I don't go like, oh, my life sucks because their life is great. Like, I don't
Right.
understand that at all anyways, as a concept. But I would much rather hear about, listen, and Dana, you and I are old enough to remember. Gabby might not be old enough. I totally miss when we just had food pictures. I miss the food. Bring the food pictures back, damn it! Like, I want to see your food pictures. I want to enjoy what meal you had.
Imposter syndrome is real. And
Yeah.
what I hate about imposter syndrome in the beauty business is you're not even looking at their full picture. You're looking at highlights, edited highlights. And then some people, I don't, like yourself, I don't feel bad about what other people do, but some people do, or they feel like they're not where they want to be. But it's most of the time, it's because they don't even know where they want to be. They're just looking at what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, that's fair.
They don't take the time to sit down and actually, write down their goals and then align their actions with their goals, not what they think other people are doing.
Preach, 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 preach.
Yeah.
I mean, the important thing
The
about
whole,
imposters, the
the
important
whole
thing about
beauty blueprint idea is like reverse engineering, Like, you have to take, if those are your goals, fine, but you have to reverse it, like, down to your pricing, everything. Like, I get there's industry standards, but it drives me nuts that someone's like, oh, I'm a $65 hair cutter. Why? Just because? Just because you think you fall in the middle somewhere?
Yeah.
So it's just really the financial literacy to reverse engineer your numbers, and your numbers should be different than the person next to you because your circumstances are probably different.
That's really fair.
Yeah.
That's really fair. Gab, tell us about the article and tell us about how Beauty Launchpad is chatting about Miss Dana Fountain.
Yeah, so the article title is sort of about maintaining a booming bridal business because I think that's something that again, like, talking about your beauty blueprint. What is going on with me today? This is the fourth podcast we've recorded this week. Words are just like not happening for me. Anyway, um I think like the business side of things isn't always intuitive for a stylist who's very creative and very like maybe more type B. And I think I was looking at like how do you be successful in that side of the industry, because I think we haven't really ever dove into the business side of things. Normally we look at like pretty tutorials and how you do the hair, but the number side of things and how do you really be successful is something that was really interesting to me, which is why I mean I reached out to Dana because you are like a SheEO. I love that term so much.
I love SheEO.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like I want to steal that.
Yeah. So I think it's just one, because I am a hairdresser, right? And I love that stuff too. I love the aesthetics of things and how things look and the beauty of the beauty business, right? And so I feel like I understand both ends. I can understand artists. I know how they think because I am one. I'm not a suit, uh, us old school hairdressers, we call, the business people in the beauty business suits. And so as a hairdresser, I've been on the manufacturing side of the business. I've been around. And it always drove me nuts when a suit tells you how to run a business. And I'm like, okay, I get you're taking statistics and numbers and all the things, but you have to understand us to create a business around us. So I think my business has been successful because I understand how we think, and I can be the right and the left brain for both of us. So if you're an artist that doesn't want to do the right brained activity, then I can do that. So it's tapping into the other side so that you can be both right-brained and left-brained, or like you said, type A, or creative or whatever. So it's just what you're drawn.
Dan, I think that that's obvious, certainly from the story you told earlier, where that person was avoiding you, and you were like, "Hey, listen, let's do this." And I think so many times, maybe because our business system was built on some kind of patriotic kind of like thing that we never. And I mean, I'm guilty, but you just didn't feel like you could have like those open conversations with it, you know what it is? It's more about being like solution based as
Yeah.
opposed to being like a failure based,
Right.
and I'll blame it on the patriarch. I don't even know if that's really true or not. However, I mean, there has to be some kind of thought to it, just because that's how our business thing, and that's how our MBAs, and that's how all of that stuff was has been set up since the jump. So anyways, I kind of get that you understand, both sides, both like the creative and the business side, and but with enough grace to be like, we'll figure this out, and if we can't figure it
Yeah.
out, I'm your girl too.
I always say my MBA is I'm a professional personality manager, because in the beauty business, you just have to meet people with where they are. You can't make them do what you want them to do to fit in your business. That's only going to last for a certain amount of time. That's why large commission salons, they have to always be recruiting and training, because then they always have new talent coming through. And then as soon as someone gets tired of fitting into their mold, they're gonna move on. So it's just that goal alignment that is, not talked about enough in business. Like it's numbers, it's all of that, but it's also leadership. And when you're in leadership, you have to understand the people that you're leading.
Well, there's a difference between being a boss and being a leader, right? And a leader's going to meet you where you're at, and not, a boss is just going to tell you how to do things. Gab.
Yeah. Um, So to get into the article a little bit more, I mean, you talk about some of your sort of advice, tips, tricks for becoming a booming bridal pro. But one of the things I want to talk about is sort of like resources, like what, are the best sort of um, tools or things that you've sort of invested in to help you grow. and be successful.
As an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many great bridal artists right now. And like you said earlier too, like so much of the bridal business is based on artistry. I just started working with Angela from Beyond the Ponytail, and her whole platform is artistry. And there's in the community around the artistry. And so when her and I met, and I'm the business side, she was like, we don't even talk about business at these events. And I was like, well, that's a problem. Um, and so her and I are going to make magic together, and I'm super excited about it. But it's the other side that is the thorn in the side, right, for the artist. But that part is the obtainable part, right? You have your Lala's Updos and Katie Brasher and like all of these amazing artists that have these how-to videos. They sell their tools. Mariah from Pink Pewter sells the comb and the clips and the everything you can need. So it's definitely following those artists that are teaching the styles, teaching the techniques, providing the tools. Um, Definitely that's where you should spend a lot of your time if you're trying to get into bridal. Another thing I always recommend, especially for younger artists, is working at a blow dry bar. Because at a blow dry bar, you're not only learning the technical, curling and drying and styling, but you're also learning how to communicate with people that are attending special occasions. So if you have, guests going to weddings, it's still an important day for them. They bought a new dress, they bought new shoes, they might maybe got their makeup done. So it's learning that communication skill set on taking an inspiration, right? They usually show you a picture on their phone, or they show you, oh, how my hairstylist back home curls my hair or whatever. So you're meeting these people for the first time, and you're able to reverse engineer what they want and ask the right questions and then apply the right products and the right tools and the right techniques. So I love sending young artists to blow dry bars, because that's education that I don't have time to train, but that's kind of like 101 education to get into bridal. Is you got to like styling. You have to like blow drying. You have to like curling. You have to like pinning. And so some of that creativity is just coming with practice.
It's interesting that we had Philip Wolf on the Philip Wolf on the podcast, and he talked about that when he started to blow up as a hairstylist, it was because he learned how to blow dry. Like that was the lacking thing in his career up to that point when he was out in LA. Dana, how can people find you? How can they stalk you like we do?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Miss Dana, MSDANA, number 4 hair. It's been the same my entire career. And on my Instagram, I have a link tree that has all of my platforms. So everything I'm involved with, all my salon homes, um, they all have their own pages and their own websites and all of the things. So that's kind of the top of my web. And then danafountain.com is my website.
I love that name, Fountain, by the way. Is that your married name or maiden name?
Married name, yes.
Well,
Yeah, I ditched my maiden name a long time ago because it wasn't as cool.
oh, what was it?
So you might disagree, but my maiden name is Louder.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I hated it always. It
Because
was like
everyone
that
talks in a really loud voice.
joke.
Louder.
What's your name? Wait, what? I can't hear you.
What? No, third grade.
Yeah.
Gabby?
Yeah. No, you're being loud about what it is that you're passionate about now. I think it works.
Yeah, it's still part of me.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Dana, so much for being here and for chatting with us, and for sharing all your insights on being a bridal expert and a SheEO. I'm just not going to stop using that term. I just love it so much. It's so fun. I had fun, like even writing it out in the article and everything. I was like, I am adopting this. To sort of wrap us up and end this, I know you talked about where people could find you. Do you want to talk about really briefly sort of what you're doing and what you're up to this year? Because I know you and Angela are collaborating with Behind the Ponytail. Do you want to sort of tease some stuff you're doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. So my bridal agency this year is set to do about 900 events. So that takes up a lot of my time is managing my team. And then on top of that, Angela and I are doing bridal industry meetups in different cities. It's always a great conversation. We started in Chicago, so she invited me along with her to her tour so we can chat all bridal beauty business stuff with our peers there. And then I'm just really working on getting my beauty blueprint done. Once my book is done, then I will probably tour and really get into education again. I love educating. I love being in a classroom. Um, I did platform work. I did stage stuff, but it was never the connection that fed my soul. So I'm really excited to, once my books are done, get back into the hair show circuit and get into classrooms because that's where I really feel like I connect with artists.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'll be psyched to see you there.
Dana, thank you so much for making time for us and for hanging out with us. And thank you very, very much for joining us on your day off.